back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from SoonerScoop.com. Now, here's the entire SoonerScoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is the unofficial 40 here at SoonerScoop.com podcast. Great to have you with us once again as we get ready to travel to UCLA, to La La Land, Los Angeles. It's not San Diego, or we would say we're traveling to the whale's vagina. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Well, I don't know that I love San Diego. It's all right.
I like San Diego.
I like it.
I've only been there once, but San Diego's pretty awesome.
There's probably less, homeless people in San Diego than L.A. or San Francisco when you're talking Bay Area places.
Which has always surprised me, because if I was homeless, why do people live in New York
really
City?
Expensive?
Or go where it's really cold all the time? Wouldn't you want to go to San Diego?
Oh, exactly.
I would find a way to get to San Diego.
It's just there's why there's Florida Man. The crazy homeless people go to water. Warm water.
Well, Seattle has a huge homeless problem. Who the hell would want to be in Seattle 8 months a year?
Yeah, and it rains all the time.
Portland does. Everybody on the West Coast does.
Portland's a sanctuary city, isn't it? I think it is.
I think that's everybody is over there.
I think that's what Dylan was saying.
But Portland's not on the border. San Diego would be a sanctuary city. It's connected to Mexico.
Some of the best Mexican food I've ever had is in San Diego.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
I haven't been since the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, I've never been there
2005.
for work. My cousin got married out there, and I went out.
That was just recently.
I've never been to Cali, period. So
really?
I don't know.
Your first time?
I don't know what this weekend's gonna be like.
Oh, bro, we're gonna smoke so much weed. Hang out on the beach.
Now I have to actually plan something that's meaningful for you.
No, you don't.
No,
taking him to the Rose Bowl. That's probably the best place you can go in Cali.
Yeah, but it's going to be the Rose Bowl with nobody in it. Will there be more OU fans than UCLA fans?
Yes.
Does the 4 free is that where they're keeping the homeless people this weekend with the 4 free ticket giveaways?
4 free tickets. Come on in.
What a pathetic school. We have credentials now. We can say that, right?
We have our credentials.
Yeah, but they can't tell us you can't come in. I don't even know if there will be anybody there. What are you expecting as far as... I guess we can get into it, but
atmosphere?
If we want to go review the South Dakota game real quick with Josh first.
Sure, yeah.
Do you have any lasting thoughts?
Saturday.
Oh, I don't think anything that you all didn't cover. I think the main things that, you talk about are a lot of the young guys. Jaden Davis continues to look like a guy that is worthy of time and going to get, some more looks. I want to give it up to Kerry because he tried to give it up to me before you stole his thunder, Eddie. But David Agwebu looks like he's going to be a player, so that was a positive sign. But I think you started to see some depth on defense, like some guys that you're like, okay, maybe that guy's not ready to be a superstar, but that guy is a good player. And then you do look at guys like Marcus Stripling, where you think, okay, maybe that guy's future is not far off. He's going to be really good before too terribly long.
I think it's going to be really interesting. I told Bob earlier today that I think it's going to be really interesting to see how much of this opportunity they actually give to Jaden Davis. And if they do give him an opportunity and he takes advantage of it, where does he fit in that rotation as far as the cornerback?
Don't you think, Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch has done this all along, where he is setting it up to where basically he's saying, if you're playing well and you're a backup, you're going to get more playing time.
Right.
You kind of start to hear Lincoln Riley kind of echoing that a little bit more.
He's done with the 90 snap count per player. That is something that Alex Grinch is clearly trying to make sure never happens again while he's running the show in Norman.
Well, and that was something specifically talked about. Was it Lincoln or Alex that talked about you're never going to get 85 productive plays out of Neville Gallimore?
I think Grinch said that.
I think it was Grinch.
Sounds like a Grinch thing, yeah.
But, they did play Dylan Fa'amatu when he came back. I thought they played a lot more Marquise Overton probably next to Neville. But I think he said, Neville got 25 snaps or something like that. Was it that little?
I can't remember what the actual number was.
It would make a lot of sense, but you could see it in the corners between Jordan Parker, Davis with Motley and Brown. That's a 4-man legit rotation, and that'll keep guys fresh.
Well, I think the main thing, yesterday was offense. I didn't go yesterday because I had to work on something that we're going to make a big announcement about later on in the pod. But you guys were there, and I told you we were trying to decide. Okay, who do we want to request? Because every day you request who you want to talk to, and trust me, if you're listening, yes, every day we request freshmen. We request Jaden Hazelwood, Trajan Bridges. I don't. You guys have dealt with Jaden Hazelwood at 5-star, and Josh, I think you talked to him a couple times. He's probably not made for prime time when it comes to interviews yet, but Trajan Bridges is. Theo Wease is.
Spencer Rattler would be.
Would he?
I think he would understand the position enough to know that he's going to be asked to do this.
There's no way Lincoln's letting him talk to the media this year.
There's no way.
As much distance as they can put between the end of his senior season and when he has to do an interview, that's exactly what they're going to do.
But what will become interesting is if Jaden Davis starts playing well, if it becomes like a Ronnie Perkins and Buki, where we just never got to him until the bowl game.
Lincoln's really, I think he's pretty good if someone becomes a big part of things and he lets them talk. But the point I was getting to, we were trying to figure out who we're going to request. I told you guys, I said, well, there's really no pressing storyline except for the offensive line. And Bill Bedenbaugh does not love doing media, but he's forced to because Lincoln Riley's the offensive coordinator and he's the next lieutenant, so he has to come in there and you knew that it wasn't going to go great. And when I heard this, I knew exactly that you guys were really in for a bad day yesterday.
Bill, when you say you got to coach him better, does that mean you coach him harder? Has this been a harder week than normal for those guys?
Yeah, so.
That was Tyler Palmatier for the Norman transcript. And pretty much
what did he say? I couldn't even tell what he said.
Ask them.
Has it been a harder week?
I'll play it for you one more time, Josh.
Bill, when you say you got to coach him better, does that mean you coach him harder? Has this been a harder week than normal for those guys?
Yeah, so.
Woo, that is abrupt.
That was... How long's Bill been here? 7 years?
God, I mean, he hired him away from West Virginia.
2012?
Before Lincoln.
I think that's right.
I think 2014. I mean, he would have been here before 2014.
I want to say 13 was the first
he
year.
Starts.
Right?
This is his seventh season.
This is his seventh season,
yes.
so he's okay.
Whatever year it was that Kevin Wilson went to Indiana, then he came here.
Okay, well, regardless, that's the most angry I've ever seen him. And I think that it stems from they must have had a bad day at practice or something because I don't think you can still be that mad about how they played after Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
And he said they had 2 good practices.
Yeah, he said Monday and Tuesday went well, but you don't have a left tackle. And that's going to be an issue.
Well, and here's what's going to get everybody upset is he was asked. I think was it Jason Kersey?
Yes, it was.
I've got the question in here. I just wanted to make sure I gave him credit. Jason Kersey from The Athletic asked him, hey, got any other left tackles up in there? And it did not go well either.
Swenson and Proctor, are they still kind of the 2 guys there at tackle?
Yep, they're the 2 guys there.
Boom.
Thank you, Coach.
I know you guys want me to pull somebody else out. I'm not going to.
No Stacey Wilkins, no Michael Thompson, no moving Bray Walker. Stop asking about that stuff.
So, can you guys...
Josh is right there with all the people that are like, what the F is going on with the tackle?
Now, I will say, I think R.J. Proctor at left tackle was not nearly as bad as people are trying to make it out to be. He wasn't Orlando Brown. He wasn't Cody Ford. I get all that. But I thought he was serviceable. He was okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Swenson is problematic. That's and it could be the injury. I'm not trying to run down the kid. There could be
the injury which they won't acknowledge.
Yes, how his left arm. What's a left tackle supposed to do with a speed rusher if he can't use his left arm to extend and drive a guy out? I don't even know how you would do that. So the fact that he's not dying every play is kind of impressive if that's what the issue is.
Let me ask you this, Josh, because you have a chance to kind of watch it back. How much evidence was there? Because I didn't record it. I wasn't going to pay $60 so I could watch it back. I'm sorry. And I haven't seen it shown replayed all week.
It's on YouTube, I think, but I haven't seen it on television.
Just YouTube.
So I tried to set my DVR for the 9 o'clock showing or whatever, like it usually is after game, and they didn't do any of that. So was it noticeable? Because I've seen people talking about like him kind of clutching his arm after certain plays. Did you notice any of that, Josh?
Yeah, the very first holding call he got on that first drive, and it was just the way it worked out. They were talking about, okay, Erik Swenson's got the penalty here, move Oklahoma back, and they shot to a solo of him, and you can see him sitting there stretching his arm, and he's trying to move it like something is not right. And then like I said, the way he kept getting beat was almost invariably to the outside. They would get around him, and you could tell he just didn't have the strength to kind of stonewall him with that left hand. There's a play, I want to say it was Trey Sermon's run there late in the second quarter, maybe. It was a touchdown run. And Swenson's got the best block on the offensive line. He drives down, he pushes him towards Humphrey down to the middle of the line and opens up a hole that pretty much Sermon runs through for his touchdown. So, I mean, there are things there that work, but you can tell whenever he has to go wide, it's a problem for him, and it's going to be a problem for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and look, like you said, R.J. Proctor was not bad. If you can get Marquise Hayes back,
which sounds like we will,
it's a possibility. By the way, you want some more goodness from Bill Bedenbaugh? And that's a terrible situation to be in because it's just like you're kind of like, I don't know what to do here. He's not cooperating. He's a hostile witness. Someone brought up, just trying to be lighthearted, like playing on the road for the first time.
Is it going to be a little bit different being on the road? Yeah, but who cares?
See, I've shortened it a little bit so it sounds worse, but it's essentially, I think after that he kind of caught himself and he was like, okay, I'm being a dick now.
He gave a real answer, but that was the real answer he wanted to give.
Is it going to be a little bit different being on the road? Yeah, but who cares?
He realized, okay, I'm being a dick.
Basically, no excuses.
Yeah.
No excuses.
I love that guy.
What was the other little...
It was borderline erotic.
I had another little one here.
Not very good. Not up to our standard. Have to play better. Have to coach better.
And that was kind of...
He said that a lot last night.
Yeah.
Got to coach better.
At least 3 or 4 times in 5 minutes.
Well, and like... Okay, who thought that this offensive line was just going... I mean, it's like after the first game, even the coaches were like, yeah, it was, they just continued what they were doing from a year ago. They were physical and all. But like, it's still a young line. They're still going to go through growing pains, and they're going through them.
That's why I was so surprised as far as through the preseason when they were so positive about everything.
They were so high on everything. It gave you the impression that there'd been no drop-off, that these guys were clicking.
What I love most about this, guys, OU averaged 8 yards a carry on Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
And he is f***ing furious.
And 11 yards per snap, like 10.9 or something.
They almost put up 750 yards of total offense. Or, 800 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
What was it, 773 or something?
But they had 4 penalties.
Yep. 733 is what
733, excuse me.
Yep. And I get, I can see what he's talking about. There were problems for sure. But, even with it being South Dakota, that's an absurd number that, you're averaging 8 yards a carry and you're like, this is awful. We got to figure this out.
Here's what it is. It is a coaching staff, and they're very smart. This is a very good coaching staff. Didn't you guys kind of get the impression, so especially talking to the defensive guys, like, the coaches are beating in their head, yeah, you're getting ready to go play an 0-2 team that if you go and play like shit, you could actually lose this game.
Sure. Yeah. There's been a lot of mental gymnastics this week, I think, as far as I think that's a pretty tough coaching job that they have to undertake because you can – everybody kind of knows it. You look at at what UCLA's done over the last 2 weeks. Not only did UCLA lose last week, they played worse than they did the first week when they lost to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And – Cincinnati, San Diego State's awful. I think they beat somebody in the first week. It was like a 14-6 game or something.
Well, is it Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Is that their quarterback's name?
Mm-hmm.
He was terrible against Cincinnati, and their defense has not been good. But
they beat Weber State 6-0 in the first week. San Diego State did.
But, I mean, let's face it, they do have athletes.
No, they do.
I don't know how much longer they'll have athletes because Chip Kelly's still not recruiting anybody.
I think the question that a lot of people will ask is Cincinnati and San Diego State's defense better than OU's? And this is the week where you start seeing the cracks in the just like last year when they went to Ames, first road game, things started to fall apart. If this defense has just been smoke and mirrors through these first 2 games, even though they're not there
last year.
Yeah, even though maybe the Bruins aren't that good, they'll have enough pulse that they're going to give OU some problems.
I just think going on the road, being not a hostile environment, being away from home, I just think that this coaching staff knows that strange things can happen, especially when you're as young as they are on the offensive side of the ball and without the track record, on the defensive side of the ball. Like you said, they could really, one bad thing happens, it could snowball on them. And I mean, there were times when a FCS team last week went up and down on the field, up and down the field on them a little bit, and then they got a turnover, or something would happen, but they didn't score against the starting defense, but they did move the ball a little bit.
They did. I mean, you think about Buki's fumble, that was almost in the red zone. You think about Jaden Davis's pick, and that was at the backups, but that was almost in red zone. So they were close to almost getting up 28 if things had worked out differently.
So it hasn't been a dominant defense. I mean, it has, in the beginnings, and got some, back-to-back 3-and-outs here and there, but it's not. They're getting some tackles for losses, but from beginning to end,
back-to-back 3-and-outs. It's positive, step in the positive
I'm
direction.
Just saying,
I know that's where
they're not a dominant team. Yeah,
where they're coming from, it's you got to take the fundamental execution of fundamentals. You got to take as a positive.
And this will be the third down defense game. They were 1 of 12. That was what Grinch and Riley were really happy about Saturday. This will be that because they're going to probably have a lot of 3rd and longs because they'll do well. I don't think the Bruins will run that well against them early, and then it's going to be about getting off the field.
I guess it will. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I think it's mainly we're 2-0. We haven't really been tested. They're 0-2, but they're really not an 0-2 talent team.
Yeah, and
that's their biggest.
It's going to be interesting just as far to see can you get some production from some of those guys up front. I mean, I feel like they've been back there, but you can't really say that they've just been great, have you? Can you, as far as the defensive line goes?
The only question would be is...
I want to see a Jalen Redmond game. I want to see You think Kenneth Mann plays this week? I think we'll probably find out maybe tonight if...
I don't know.
I don't really get a great feel that Kenneth Mann is ready yet.
Yeah.
So you just wait for Tech. You got the bye week. No, neither.
And like in pregame, like Kenneth Mann hasn't been out there with his nose in the drills and stuff like that. Like he's really been.
Yeah, he's not even wearing the jersey with pants.
Yeah,
he's not even in that.
He's been in the
mode.
background quite a bit. By the way, if you want to know how bizarre, you pointed this out to me, Eddie, before the podcast started. Josh will love this. He's probably seen it too. You want to point out how bizarre OU's defense has been this year?
Credit Bob.
Is it Bob?
Bob
that pointed this out? Okay. Sorry, Bob. Parnell Motley, PFF, Pro Football Focus. They put this out, PFF College. Through 2 weeks, they show the completion percentage allowed for cornerbacks in all of FBS, Football Bowl Subdivision. If you're wondering what that meant. So far this season, minimum 10 targets allowed, number 1 in the country, Parnell Motley.
As one does.
He's only allowed 1 reception on 12 targets in coverage.
I think I've looked at some of the comments. Like, well, good corners don't get targeted that much for the first two weeks.
But it was a minimum 10 targets.
That's
I mean, you had
saying.
to be targeted 10 times. Yeah, I mean, people are just mad.
You're a miserable person if that's your first
The Alabama corners aren't on there, I'm sure.
Oh, don't. Watch out. Don't talk about Alabama because I stepped into the wild world.
You have an invite to go.
I almost
11 a.m. games.
I almost chastised you for bringing those knuckle draggers into my timeline.
I don't know how they came into your timeline.
Somebody was like, report him to Kerry Murdoch. Is that we report him for
Wait,
what?
I didn't see that. That's funny.
I was just like, report him for what? I hate you too.
There's nothing
I stand
better
with
than
Eddie.
people.
But I didn't want to get more of them going.
Every fan base has that segment of people, but we are talking about the dumbest, most inbred hicks I've ever seen in my entire life. And Tony's probably part of it
a lot of
as
them
well.
have found Twitter over the last,
Well, they're
year, I
slowly
guess.
migrating from Facebook. That's
I
why
know.
I swear to God, I've
told
been telling
you
you
this
guys.
forever.
It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
So is there a chance Eddie's not going with us? Could he's actually going to Tuscaloosa to see?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, some dude invited you to a game, and
I'm not doing that, man.
Tuscaloosa.
I'm not coming to hang out with you.
that's the Facebook mindset. It's like, come down here and I'll take you to a game and show you around. And
It's like
be your friend.
Tuscaloosa is the hottest place on earth.
Right. It's like 11 o'clock. That's not the hottest part of the day ever. That's never the hottest part of the day.
I hope every person gets dehydration at the game and heat stroke.
Do you know the craziest thing I saw this week is? Did you see what?
Oh, it's not like they're going to the Junction Boys, Josh.
Did you see what David Ubben wrote about Tennessee and Chattanooga?
No.
Like there was a full-on riot
Years and years ago.
years
Yeah,
and years ago
This isn't
after
anytime
Chattanooga
recently.
beat Tennessee. Like
Imagine
people
that.
were being
Tennessee
carted
losing
off.
a football game in an embarrassing fashion.
Well, and they're playing this week, so it's like, how much can you beat down a fan base that they've had the worst start, one of the worst starts in history, and you write a giant long-form article about the time that they sent a bunch of Chattanooga fans to the hospital after they lost.
Just an embarrassing. There are a couple programs out there that are just embarrassing. Tennessee's one of them. UCLA's one of them.
Florida State's bordering.
Josh,
Florida State's a missed extra point away from being part of that group.
Josh, did
Nebraska
you-
is
Oh,
very
boy.
close.
Whoa.
I tried to. I kicked you out, and then I welcomed you back in, and you're getting ready to get kicked out again.
Josh, did you know that Jeremy Pruitt was this big of an idiot?
An idiot, no. A enormous douche, yes. Like that's been. Well, I've heard that from a lot of people that he is just insufferable. Like almost makes Nick Saban seem congenial.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like,
I could see him being like a Nick Saban, kind of just a dickhead, but he's coming off in these post-game press conferences like, I want to say it's kind of John Blake-ish.
I remember.
I guess I haven't watched enough. Like I've seen a few clips, but I haven't seen enough. I guess to really.
What was the
have a
Titanic
feel.
deal that he
about the mice going up top to showing who really wants to still be there.
And people were like, you're using a Titanic reference to talk about your program. Like,
Interesting. Interesting play.
People were like, does anyone want to tell him? Like, do you think that he's seen the movie Titanic? Do you think he knows what happens?
Those mice didn't survive.
They froze. They became micicles.
He's never made it past Kate Winslet getting naked. He just stopped there.
I forget. I don't know who said it, but when you go after Saban's people, sometimes you get a Kirby Smart, and sometimes you get a Pruitt.
Yeah, you
know,
can't just keep picking off of the same staff all the time.
But that's the way with a lot of these great coaches. Like people think like it's just like going to rub off on the next. Like think how many guys have been hired from Krzyzewski's staff through the years that were just flops, just monumental.
This is why you're blocked.
By Jeff Capel. Josh is blocked now too.
This is why you guys are
I'm blocked too. I'm blocked. Yeah, I went and checked. I was listening to the pod the other day. I was like, I wonder if I'm shit. Yeah, I'm blocked.
Jeff Capel has blocked everyone from Sooner Scoop.
For the record, I don't think I've ever written
Interacted
a
with
story
him.
about. Like I have no connection to Jeff Capel.
Good luck at Pittsburgh this year.
Well, that should make Eddie feel better that Josh is blocked too. I'm probably the only one that has any reason to be blocked. And I've never said anything bad about him. I just reported that he was going to get fired, and he got fired.
Good luck with Pittsburgh basketball this year.
I never understand, like, why do that? Why give us the punchline? Like, that's all you're doing. Do you
Probably
think
'cause
we're
he's a
really concerned
douchebag.
about what's in your timeline? I
Because they
couldn't
don't
give a shit.
They don't know mute. I don't know. Maybe we show up in his timeline because he's still following Oklahoma people. He just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie's right, though. He could just mute us. Or you said that. But, I mean...
Yeah, I really don't care who gets credit about pointing out muting.
Yeah, well, all right, just want to make sure I'm accurate.
So anyway, real quick, I want to remind you guys, UCLA game is coming up this weekend. Everybody's been I think there's going to be a mass exodus from Oklahoma out to LA because people are just like, well, they're giving away tickets. It's like far and away, but football.
You think a lot of people that have planned this for months are pissed, and now they're hearing they're just giving tickets away?
Well, you have to be a season ticket holder, don't you?
Yes.
To claim the free
Yeah.
tickets.
Mm-hmm. But I would imagine those season ticket holders are probably putting those tickets on SeatGeek and saying, hey, I got to make something out of this thing.
There has to be some kind of like provision or something where they're like, you can't resell them or you have to pick them up the day of the game. I have no idea.
I think everybody just emails tickets to everybody
Jesus. Now. What an embarrassing. I am preparing myself to see maybe one of the worst game day experiences from a fan.
You think it's going to be like going to watch when the Mud Dogs played, when Bobby Boucher played for them, like the cheerleaders are going to be drunk on the sideline?
That wouldn't be a
passed
bad thing.
out.
That wouldn't be a bad thing.
I don't think
UCLA
I've
has
seen
a pretty stacked cheerleading
atmosphere.
squad.
Yeah, they do. Well, I remember.
I'm trying to think. Kansas is probably the worst that
Kansas
we've seen.
is the worst, yeah.
By far.
But that's it, really. Because
maybe Baylor, like
back
circa
in the day,
2008-ish.
Yeah, it was pretty bad then. I mean, nothing like 2000.
Yeah, and I never went down there for any of those games. But just from what we saw last week when that we talked about it in the postgame pod, the picture that Arash Makazi put out, like that, literally there was less than 2,000 people, I bet, in that stadium.
Yeah. And it holds 90,000.
I mean, there's going to be more OU fans, I think, for sure.
I think there's going to be a certain segment of just general football fan in the LA area that will want to come see Oklahoma.
Maybe.
Yep.
So a lot of like medium interest people or non-rooting interest, they're just
going to sit there.
Just wearing board shorts and a tank top.
They're not the ones that are going to stand on the bleachers and cheer. They're just going to sit.
It'll be a bunch of burnouts just sitting there with their edibles. No, but I mean,
video might be pretty interesting if that happens.
In 2005, it was a decent crowd. I mean, the end zones weren't full, but like their student section was there, and they had a guy with a microphone that was screaming at everyone,
doing the 8 clap.
Yeah,
I just have this. I have this vision of the Rose Bowl that the only time that I've ever been there was just so unbelievable. I'm ready to be.
Oh yeah,
just taken aback by how shitty this is going to be.
No, I mean,
not shitty, but just from a UCLA standpoint,
a letdown. Yeah,
a letdown. Yeah.
I mean, Georgia, Oklahoma was one of the most regal college football events I've ever been to. Like, it was just the stealth bomber flying over, the fireworks. They had extra fireworks, the stadium being full. It was unbelievable. Even the Rose Bowl in 2001, like, there was a little section that didn't have any people in it when it was Washington State, Oklahoma. But like, that was just packed to the gills. Plus, you knew Herb Street and why can't I remember Fowler? You knew they were in the building calling the game and everything. I mean, I think they were.
Yeah.
It was the best college football experience I've ever been.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It won't be that this weekend.
Even though Oklahoma lost, I think it was bar none the best experience I've ever been at a game. Chills.
Wanted to tell you guys.
Sports chills.
One of the things that I was working on last night, we can tell you about now, is we've got a new major sponsor coming to the podcast and want to tell you guys about it. I'm sure for those of you listening that have been to basketball games over the years, watched Thunder games on television, just been to an OU football game, like MidFirst Bank is a premier partner of OU athletics, and they contacted us and said, hey, we love your podcast, we would love to sponsor it, and so MidFirst Bank is coming on board. We want to welcome them. We'll have all the Purdue stuff coming up pretty soon, but they've got a lot of stuff going on. They want you to go to midfirst.com/OU-offer and sign up for a MidFirst Bank credit card, and it has the OU on it. It's the official card of OU. So debit card, you open a checking account, you get the OU debit card. But the OU credit card, go up, sign up for that. It's 12 months, 0% financing on that right now. They've got a lot of great deals that goes along with that because of their connections to OU. Like if you've got a kid going to school, there's a bursar rewards option where you can use your rewards to pay down your bursar bill of your kid, which is a really good option.
My parents would have appreciated that, I think.
Yeah. And also, every time you swipe either your debit card or your credit card from MidFirst Bank, you are entered into the Ultimate Game Day contest, which what it is they award this Ultimate Game Day package once a year. They'll draw in November. It's $500 in a MidFirst debit card. You also get VIP tickets to the game. You get to go down on the field. You get a tour of the facilities. But every time you use your MidFirst OU credit or debit card, you get entered into that drawing, and that happens once a year. So go to midfirst.com/OU-offer and give it a look. They're supporting the podcast. We can't thank them enough for that. And this will now be the MidFirst Bank unofficial 40. So we'll sell out anytime.
How about that?
Anytime. That's how big this is.
Pretty cool.
We're willing to sell out the name. So thank you to MidFirst Bank.
I've told you guys before, I've been looking to sell out for a long, long ass time.
Well, you're very cheap, though. That's the problem. You don't have standards.
I have no shame.
Everyone has their price. Eddie's is just really low.
Yeah.
Mine's like $35 and a pack of cigarettes.
Thanks, MidFirst.
Are you not like switched over to vaping?
No, I'm not a douchebag.
I don't live
You
in
have
that
to have
world.
a man bun.
I don't know what happens with that.
I don't have very many friends that are in the
vaping,
the vape world. I think that's even like the younger demographic.
Is
really
vaping? Young kids don't smoke.
I have no idea. I'm officially getting old.
You
I think I
are,
am an olds.
You're not an olds.
Not yet.
Unless your last wish is to be taken in a limo to El Phoenix, you're not an olds.
I saw that.
That was awesome, though.
Saw that.
You're gonna make me take you to that someday, aren't you, Carrie? I know it.
No, you will never be able to go to El Phoenix with me again because you're just gonna crap on it.
Yeah, Josh might agree with me. Just give me the cancer.
God.
Bring the sweet release.
You son of a bitch. You liked El Phoenix.
No, it's not bad.
El Phoenix is fine. It's more fun to give you shit about it, though.
It's not. No, it's just look. It's like people think that I don't know what good Mexican food is just because I like El Phoenix. I know what good Mexican food is.
Carrie, I grew up eating like Nino's in Oklahoma City. Nino's was not great Mexican food, but like it's what I grew up on.
Yeah,
so,
it's
like, I
what
would
you
still
grow
totally
up
go
on
eat.
is
Yeah.
kind of what you like, just like I like Taco Tico. I'm sorry.
Nino's. I don't know if I ever went to Nino's, but it probably was that a relative of Poncho's
Yeah, I think
up on
they
Expressway.
Were, yep.
Or hell, it might have been
Nino-
in the same building. But I do remember at Poncho's, you put up the flag when you needed something, and that was badass.
It was the precursor to the Brazilian steakhouse.
Yeah, it was the precursor to Texas Day Brazil, for sure.
And Poncho's was the shit back in the day until they started finding feces in the food.
Yeah, it's one of those
That
things.
would be a downer.
It's one of those things, though. As long as it tastes good, I don't really care what's in it. You don't. Just don't tell me.
I'm with Eddie. I'm with Eddie. I want ignorance. Just give me ignorance. I'm
Just
fine.
don't
That's
tell
okay.
me about it, and I'll be okay.
I mean, did you
Are we
guys
are we going?
to where?
El Cholo, right?
Hell yeah, we're
Cholo?
going to El Cholo.
We going tomorrow night?
We get in like at 6:30. You want to go
Might
tomorrow
have
night?
to. I don't know.
Is it more of a dinner or a lunch?
Oh, it's whatever you
It's
want.
whatever. Yeah. I mean, they got good appetizers.
There's multiple locations.
Oh
aren't there?
yeah, it's like the Teds of L.A.
Need to do some reviewing tonight.
Bob, can you eat Mexican food or will your stomach explode?
I will have to be very choosy, but yes.
Let's test the waters.
Well, you're rooming with him, so
Bob, you're not eating. You're not eating this trip. You better bring some I'll bring some extra. What's it called? What's the drink that I used to drink them in like middle school before school? It's probably why I'm so fat now.
like Imodium D.
No. It's like a meal replacement almost.
Dang it! I know what you're talking about.
They have like vanilla and chocolate and strawberry. Ensure.
Well, that's what old folks drink.
I used to drink Ensure.
I
My
don't
parents
think you're
trying to
thinking
like
of Ensure.
fatten me up.
They were probably just trying to keep did you have brittle bones or something?
I don't know. No, I've never broken a bone in my body.
Did you have childhood
Because
osteoporosis?
of Ensure.
That's probably true. I have no
Hey,
idea.
your parents were just setting up future segments for you. You know, Jalen, Kyler. I mean, they'd set you up. You're welcome.
Yeah, I've been
There are
fat
a lot
shamed
of-
for the second straight year. Not happy.
I don't think that Jalen Hurts was fat shaming you, other than he was just telling the truth by your body composition.
He doesn't know that I
He
can't do
squats
that.
500 pounds, Eddie.
He doesn't know Eddie can't hang.
I'm just wondering why.
You can tell Eddie can't hang just by looking at him.
See, that's another assumption. We don't know that for a fact.
I can't hang. Bob can't hang. He's skinny.
You
and he
too
can't
maybe
hang.
can't. Maybe I have this unbelievable stamina that I could.
Bob, did you really buy that shirt for like $5 somewhere?
No, that's a
Did you have that
an
before?
online production.
Yes.
You had it before
I did.
everything went to shit.
Jake gets me a lot of
Okay.
shirts from this one company. It's like super soft.
He's got the NBA Jam, Russell Westbrook, Paul Pierce.
I almost
or
bought
Paul
that.
Pierce, Paul
It's
George.
a collector's edition
I
now.
almost bought that.
You can buy it for like $3.
It was a Christmas gift.
That's a cool
From
shirt.
Jake.
That was an awesome shirt until they blew it up. By the way, I don't want to see Chris Paul naked. I'm not getting the body issue.
Okay. It's like, where are
Bob
we
was like,
going?
"What?
Where are we going with
Why would you see Chris Paul naked?"
Do we have to announce all the men we don't want to see naked? Is this part of the pod now? It's a new segment.
Thank you.
Just the ones. I don't want to see Brooks Koepka naked. Just the ones that were in ESPN The Body.
Okay. So, you know what this implies is that there are some
some
do
you
want to
do.
see naked.
That doesn't imply. You're totally wrong. It's just like they were talking this morning about how, I don't know, one of the Jenners is posing nude with like Travis Scott or something in Playboy.
It's probably her husband. One of those.
Is it
Her baby
Kylie or-
daddy. Kylie, I think, isn't that her baby daddy?
I don't even know which Jenners
Is
are
it
which.
Kendall, Kylie?
Kendall
I
or
don't have
Kylie,
a clue.
Oh, I do. I mean, I'm telling you.
Okay.
I don't need to see couples in Playboy.
Here's a question.
Naked couples.
Who's reading Playboy
Who's
in
reading
2019? That's the better question.
Well, why do you think that they're having a Jenner in there? Because nobody's reading it.
Blake Griffin had a nice dig at
Oh, it was
Caitlyn
awesome.
Jenner. That was really good.
You can go search that out. We don't need to play that on the pod. But yeah, that was considering that he is dated a Jenner. I said that nicely.
And by dated, you mean just for the listeners that maybe have some problems that
I thought we would just. That's my fault for even.
set it up. Am I not supposed to swing?
You tee him up a lot and then tell him to hold the club, okay?
I don't tee him up a lot. That's not true.
That's like
You do.
that's like giving the take sign on a 3-0 fastball and just saying don't swing, or I mean, allowing me to swing and then saying don't. Never mind.
Well, I mean, and he hit it over the fence.
Oh yeah, we just scored a home run for sure.
Can we? Okay, I want to get back to football for a second. So 2 games in.
Oh damn.
Fine.
2 games in. Curse ruined the pod. Is this? Do we know less about this team than any team in recent history?
I don't. Maybe.
Just about what they are.
Yes, I
Yeah.
would say yes, because you always, in a way, even with Kyler last year, it's kind of messed up to say this, but you always had this feeling that you could fall back on something. I don't know what.
And you had that offensive line.
You had the offensive line to fall back on last year, and it's like, okay, if shit hits the fan, you're still going to be okay because you're going to be able to run the ball in a way. This year, I still don't know if Jalen Hurts can make the throw that beats a
is
Texas.
he the real deal?
Right. And in a really odd way, maybe I've just talked myself into this, but maybe we do learn a little bit about this team as far as the nuts and bolts of can they go on the road and take care of a game that they should. Is that a fair way to put it?
Well, I'll throw it out to Josh because after the first game, you were saying Jalen didn't have to do much. What did you think of his second game in some of those deep balls?
And I can kind of lead this question from what from what Eddie was talking about into what you're talking about, Bob. I have somebody asked me in the board chat today, how do you feel about OU's chances 2 games in as compared to where you were, before the season, as far as winning the Big 12 championship, going to a playoff again. I'm a little back from it. Like I'm a little more concerned than I expected to be at this point in the year. Jalen Hurts, if that first read isn't there, he gets happy fast. I don't know that you fix that in a couple of weeks. I think that's there, and I think it's part of it is not his fault. I think it was ingrained in him in Alabama. If the easy, quick read isn't there, go get something with your feet. Like don't put anything at risk. Don't take a shot. Don't have a chance for a sack. We don't want negative plays. If you go get 3 yards on a 1st and 10, we can live with that, and we'll go to 2nd and 7, and we'll work from there. So I think there's some of that, and at the same time, with Hurts, you watch him on these deep balls. There's been 3 or 4 over these last few weeks where there was a lot of space for him to work with, and he just didn't get the ball where it needed to be. And it wasn't like it was a terrible throw. It was just you let the corner back in on the play, and it's hurt Oklahoma a couple of times.
Right, where he had the space, but he brought it actually closer to making it a more difficult play than an easier one.
To turn the words, he threw a receiver, covered instead of open. Yep. So
let me ask you this, Josh, because I've had a chance to watch most of it, but and this is for any of you guys because I don't know how much you guys had a chance to catch back up on Texas LSU. Bob shakes his head no, which really helps when you have a mic in front of your face. He's still shaking his head no. It's a verbal medium, Bob. So, right now, do you think Texas is a better team than OU? Because I'm going to say yes.
I kind of lean that way. I said it before.
I think
the season.
Tom Herman's an idiot, though. I mean, the decisions that he made to not kick field goals early in that game, and I know they dropped a touchdown pass, but still, you weren't going to get in the end zone from the 1 yard line on 4th down against that defense.
I think when you chase points early, it almost always ends up biting you. I get it in the 4th quarter when you're trying to set up scenarios.
Yeah.
You can kind of know how many possessions remain and that kind of thing. But first quarter, take the points you can get. Go,
when you're at home and there's a huge difference when it's, what was it? What was the score progression? Was it 24-3 or 20-3 at halftime?
20-7
or 20-7. Yeah.
Yes.
So they could have been 13-3 at one point if they would have kicked the field goals. They would have been up on LSU 13-3. And being at home with the crowd on your side, LSU being in that environment with the quarterback that hasn't been on that stage before, who knows what could happen? And Herman just gave them. Just took away points off the board twice.
My biggest problem in this conversation, and it's what I talked about in the preseason. I thought these two teams were fairly close, and I thought Oklahoma was going to have an edge at quarterback because I've never been a big Sam Ehlinger guy. I thought Sam played the best game of his career.
I do
Texas.
too.
I thought he was really, really good against LSU. Made some throws I didn't think he could make.
By the way,
at least hasn't shown before.
Colin Johnson seems to be regressing while Devin Duvernay seems to be coming into his own.
I made a comment early in the first half about Colin Johnson being this guy that I get it that he looks pretty and he does all this stuff, but what game has he ever really taken over? And someone came back and was like, well, last year's Big 12 championship game. And I went back and looked at the stats. I was like, I don't remember that. He had 8 catches for 100. There's no argument. He had a great, great game. But I don't remember feeling like, wow, you just can't do anything with Colin Johnson right here. Like I
don't remember him just dominating that game.
Maybe it's shell shock. You just got so used to that secondary, like somebody's going to get the yards. What damn difference does it make who it was? But he never catches my eye. He never does anything. Now Devin Duvernay with his speed, he can stretch anybody.
And he was physical. I just saw highlights. That's all I've seen. But he was physical. That's why I didn't catch up on the game at all. I've seen like a 12-minute highlight package. He looked a lot more physical.
Is this what you were actually saying, Bob, when you were shaking your head? Like,
yes.
That was the subtext?
Yes. 12-minute highlight package, YouTube. That's what I've seen of that game.
But I will say this, Texas, their safeties and linebackers will hit you. Like, they had the Osai guy. I mean,
but
didn't know anything about him.
Out for a
he is out
weeks.
for a while.
Let's see if he's back.
And I didn't think Caden Stearns really was he even in that game, or was he out? Or
no.
I didn't notice him a whole lot. And
I thought they did a really good job taking him out of that game, because if there's anybody on that Texas defense I buy, it's him. Stearns is legit. Foster is exactly what you're talking about. He's a Mack truck. He hits. Like, he'll meet Trey Sermon anywhere, anytime. Like, that kid, I've watched him. He's from the Houston area. I think I added him to the Rivals database when he was like a sophomore in high school. But he's a monster.
By the way,
but at the same time, he can be hurt in coverage. So, I mean, that was the thing that surprised me. I thought I would see more from the Texas secondary than I saw. They looked overmatched in that second half.
Yeah.
Surprising for DBU.
Well, they were going up against DBU. By the way, Stingley plays a bunch for LSU.
And he's friggin' good.
He's good.
Yeah.
And Theo Wease handled him at the 5-star last year, which is just even more bizarre to me.
I don't know if you guys saw it. I tweeted about it. About the same time Stingley had a big breakup in the LSU game, Theo Wease had his touchdown. Within like a minute or two of each other. It was real close together. It was funny.
It's almost like recruiting matters. I don't know.
Weird.
What do you take out of that play by Theo Wease?
I heard you guys talking about it. I couldn't agree more. Like, if there was any guy of the three that I would have said that's not going to happen, it would have been Theo. Like, Theo's just so long and kind of lanky. Like, that's not really what you expect of him. But, I mean, part of it was that defense was tired and they'd been chasing around guys all night.
Mm-hmm.
I get all that. But that's pretty beastly. I mean, that was something that Trey Sermon would be proud of, shaking people off like that.
And I think that was his mouthpiece at the end that went flying into the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. He got tattooed into the end zone.
Oh, he earned it. There's no doubt. But no, the three freshman receivers, I mean, I heard you guys talking about Jaden Hazelwood, maybe the most talented freshman receiver OU's ever had. Like, I mean, ever.
We're seeing a different gear from him than everybody else.
Yep.
And even in some respects, he's got a different gear than CeeDee Lamb does.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I think, just his explosiveness.
Yep. Oh, and he's so much, I mean, not so much in the upper body, but his lower body is so much bigger than CeeDee's was at the same point. I mean, he's kind of powerfully built in the lower body.
So, Josh, just to kind of backtrack just real quick, do you kind of agree that there's no way that these three wide receivers, talking about the, Wease, Hazelwood, and Bridges, predominantly with Hazelwood, I don't think there's any way that we look up in the 7th game of the year and he's not a major part of this offense.
Hazelwood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Honestly, I think you'll start to see A.D. Miller's time wane, and you'll start to see Nick Basquin's time wane. Because, like, you look at that play, the big catch that Bridges had, where he caught a short one and he just about broke it for a score of his own. Mm-hmm. Nick Basquin's not doing that anymore. Like, that's just not – I mean, it's not his fault, man. He's suffered all kinds of stuff. It's amazing that he's even back out there. But at some point against Texas in the playoffs, against some of the – against Oklahoma State – you're going to need that guy that can make more than that. He can make 20 yards out of a 7-yard catch and not just, he got 10 out of that. You're going to need those free yards that elite athletes can get you. And I get why they love Nick Basquin. I do. I mean, he seems like everything you want your program to be. But at the same time, if you're trying to go the places you want to go, you're going to have to make that move at some point.
By the way, I want to remind you guys, we talked about going out to L.A. And the the tickets being easily accessible and all that stuff. And a lot of people said they're going out to the game without tickets and they're just going to buy them there. Well, if you do that, or you're looking for tickets for this weekend, or anything really, concerts, whatever, check out the SeatGeek app. Go download it now in the App Store or the Google Play Store. And it's a great app. It'll show you the best prices in the stadium. It'll show you, where you sit in the stadium. It'll show you what the best deals are, what's a bad deal. And also, like, if you got Spotify on your phone and you have certain artists that you follow, things like that, it'll show you, like, when they're coming to town in concert, too. It'll give you an alert, send you emails, just keep you up to date on everything that's going on, both in the sports world, the music world, whatever you get tickets for. So go download the SeatGeek app. I know Eddie used it recently when he went to Wrigley, bought tickets.
It was awesome
for there. I know a lot of people have been going on and saying, "Hey, SeatGeek," on the message board saying SeatGeek's fees aren't as much as some other people's fees. So give them a look. And they've been a great sponsor of the pod over the last 2 seasons, and glad to have them back again this year. So SeatGeek.com or check out the SeatGeek app for tickets this weekend. Okay, now it's going to be Iowa State and Iowa get together this weekend. That's kind of the game that, if you're the Big 12, nobody was going to root for Texas. Let's face it. I mean, it would have been nice if they would have won for the Big 12, but
nobody cares if they
nobody
lost.
cares if they lost. Exactly, Bob. Now, I think people will care about Iowa State because they tend to screw this game up every year. Game day is going to be in Ames. This could be a pretty big moment for the Big 12 this weekend, who's had it pretty good up to this point.
You look at Matt Campbell, he kind of needs this because they're the team that's been on the rise the last couple seasons, but they can't get over that 7-8 win hump. This is the type of game that can get them to a 9-3 or a 10-2. And for the first time ever being in Ames, I sort of wonder what those kids are going through right now. They're used to being the underdogs, and now the spotlight is on them this week.
You know what's crazy? As I said this as I was watching them play Northern Iowa. Name me the last Iowa State quarterback that's gotten better as his career's gone on. It's like Iowa State has turned into kind of like Oklahoma had been with cornerbacks. Like they would start out well, like Jordan Thomas. Start out well. As the career went on, they get worse. They get replaced by a younger guy. And that's kind of what's been happening with Iowa State and quarterbacks. Go back. I mean, who was before Kyle Kempt? It was that. It was the guy that killed OU last year.
Zeb Nolan.
Zeb Nolan. Yeah.
Zeb.
It was like Zeb Nolan, and then he got replaced by Kyle Kempt, and Kyle Kempt got replaced by Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy didn't have a great game against Northern Iowa. I mean, if he doesn't have a good game against Iowa, is that a red flag?
I think it's a red flag anyways.
I don't know.
I'm not as high on Iowa State as everybody else.
Without Butler, Montgomery, maybe they're just not that type of team.
Is Charlie Kolar their best receiver?
That would be an indictment.
Yeah. I mean, he's
good.
He's a good player.
But he shouldn't be your number one.
He might get drafted. I mean, I think he's definitely will get drafted.
He kind of has a little, I'm not saying he's Greg Kittle, but he has a little bit of that in him, doesn't he?
But I mean, at
kind
Norman
of a
North,
big, long, just a big body.
At Norman North, I mean, he was a really, really good high school. Like, I think he was more effective at Norman North than George Kittle was at Norman High.
Yes, that's true.
He was a bigger part of their offense.
Realize the growing that George Kittle, like when he went up to Iowa City and came back, he was like a different person, a different human altogether.
It's almost like Iowa's weight program is absurd.
Yeah. It's kind of weird how that works, isn't it?
Maybe they've got the Nebraska juice from the 80s.
That'd be so awesome to do a steroid cycle.
It's one of the few things in the country where Iowa has one of the highest paid position guys. I mean, he's like top 3 or 4 in the country. He's up there with the Alabama guy. Deshaunte Jones is their leading receiver currently. at Iowa State.
He had a big game. I just don't know anything about the kid.
14 catches against Northern Iowa. Charlie had 4 for 45.
I mean, they definitely took a hit losing David Montgomery. They don't have anybody quite like that.
And they definitely don't have Hakeem Butler.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I mean, how surprised are you guys with Spencer Sanders?
Not very. I mean, I just always go back. If Lincoln Riley, that's the first guy he goes to after Cam Rising leaves. Lincoln Riley knew Sanders was going to be damn good, and Sanders didn't budge, so he moved on. But I just don't understand why Sanders didn't get any time last year, but that's over and done with.
Yeah, I was never as big a Sanders fan. I've always kind of heard mixed stories as far as how deep OU got with him. Like, I still feel like if OU really wants to push for a kid from Denton, it's going to be really tough for that kid to say no. But I think that they realized there wasn't a lot of point, and I would much rather have Adrian Martinez, who was their next legitimate offer in that race, and I thought he was. I still think he could be fantastic, but like we've talked about, Nebraska may be a train wreck. I'm not sure yet.
I just don't think Scott Frost is going to fail.
I hope it is.
A train wreck?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a pattern he's starting to show of having trouble hanging on to leads. I mean, it went back to last year. They should have made a bowl with all the games they blew late, and then it happened again against Colorado where that game was in hand, and Nebraska just found a way to screw it up.
But, Nebraska really did get – they became that program that started celebrating every 3-star that they got. I mean, it's just like it's not like they've been stacking up a lot of talent.
No, I mean, that's – but, I mean, are they less talented than Colorado, who hasn't recruited for anything for about, pretty much since Bill McCartney left?
Yeah, no. Nebraska being shitty is – I don't like it.
Oh, I don't either. I think it's good for college football, and the Blue Bloods are good. It just is.
I just think those Nebraska people are going to go whether they're good or not. They're like a bunch of old people that just love the Huskers. Win or lose. There's not been
a lot of losing.
I'm sure online you have the crazies, but like my impression of Nebraska fans is always just going to be, we're gonna stand and clap for you no matter what. Farmers that just love their kids.
Did you feel that way when you went to Lincoln all those times?
No, they were assholes. No, like that whole thing about all those stories over the years about how classy their fans were
of being the best.
I didn't think they were classy at all.
I think is that something that Barry Trammell would take up with you?
I don't want to get Barry mad. I don't want to speak for Barry Trammell. That'll get me in trouble. Not like Barry's, the devil or anything.
No, I'm just saying I feel like he's always somebody that would stick up for Nebraska.
I think probably in the 80s.
I mean, outside of the early 2000s,
that kind of stuff happened,
and outside of the mid 90s when I was 8, Nebraska football has never been a thing in my life.
I know.
In my lifetime, and it's never been. I think people my age too. The OU Nebraska, quote unquote rivalry, that's never been a thing in my life.
Well, yeah. 2010 is probably the best they've been.
Well,
when they played OU in the Big 12 championship
outside of those
they
90s teams that scored 73 in Norman and.
That was what was that Martinez? Shane Martinez, was that their quarterback? When they had Taylor Martinez, that's right, who had the infamous helicopter dad, and the running back. God dang it, Halu, right?
Oh, Roy Halu.
Yeah,
Halu.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah,
he was a pretty good running back. But yeah, they just haven't had. They've had a Prince of Mukamara here and there.
Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead's a great running back.
Shut up.
Greatest ever, right?
No, I think he's one of the best running backs to ever come from Nebraska. Certainly from Plano.
All right. Whatever.
He's got to be up there in the top 5 Rexes.
Tell me who else besides the Patriots would keep that guy on their roster.
Rex the Wonder Horse was always pretty big.
All right. Josh, you want to tell us about guys that came in last weekend?
Sure. Yeah, there were 3 official visitors. You had Jaquez Robinson, the Alabama commitment from Florida, a corner, Alfred Collins, defensive lineman from the Austin area, and Brian Darby, the kind of wide receiver athlete commitment from College Station. Well, obviously, Darby loved it. Everything went well. It sounded very status quo for him. Just, felt really good about it, loved what OU's wanting to do with him. And he's, that's kind of what we talked about. I did an interview with him after the game. I don't know if we've run that yet or not, but people kind of always ask me, well, what's OU's playing with him? I think it's pretty open-ended for him too. Like, I could see him being used in like a Lee Morris kind of role. I could see him kind of being not a Dimitri Flowers type, but like a very ultra athletic H-back type of guy. They could do a lot of different stuff with him, and I think that's what they like about him is he's really unique. He's a guy that I can't, like I said, Lee Morris is about as close as I get to a direct comparison to somebody we've seen in OU's offense. So it'll be kind of fun to see what they do with him. But like I said, the visit itself, everything went well. They seem really happy. Alfred Collins, I've talked to him. I actually need to run the interview this afternoon. He loved it. He really enjoyed it. Came up with his mom and his dad. I got the impression of talking to some people that he's not the lock to Texas that some people want to believe. Now, I don't know if I believe that, but there's some hope in some of the sources I talked to that Oklahoma really does have a chance with him. And he's a big, long defensive lineman. I saw him a few weeks ago. He goes about 6'5", 6'6", about 285. He's a nice fit for what Oklahoma's doing up front. Very twitchy guy at that size. So there's a lot to like about him. And like I said, I think OU really kind of made an impact. The final one is Jaquez Robinson. Like I said, an Alabama commitment since way back, and I believe February. And I got the impression that it surprised some Alabama people that he took that trip. I don't think it was a known thing, although I think before he left he did pass along to Alabama. But I don't think it was something where, he had made sure he got clearance before he did it or anything like that. He just kind of told them, hey, I'm going. And talking to him, he loved it. I mean, he loved the defense. He loved what they were selling him on early playing time. He felt like he was a guy that was very different than what they had on campus. And as a corner, he could kind of come in and make an early impact. And he bought into all of that. I think he is hung up on something we've heard with a lot of DBs, and he's clearly heard this from some staffs recruiting him, is, I guess, outside of Norman staffs recruiting him, that, well, how much experience does Roy Manning have coaching corners? How many guys has he put in the league? How much time has he spent playing the position, coaching the position? How confident can you be that that guy's going to develop you into the player you want to be? And you could tell that, like, I talked to him for about 15 minutes, and that was the only thing he could come up with as an uncertainty about a situation with Oklahoma.
Okay, so let me throw this out there. Bob, I know he made some comments on Twitter, but Brynden Walker basically caught going to an OSU game last weekend.
Done. Yeah, talked to him a couple of weeks ago in the Moore scrimmage, and he said he would be going to every OU home game and taking it easy, not caring anything about recruiting throughout the entire season. And then me and Eddie did watch him Friday night. I mean, he had his moments, but there were a lot of times when Del City would definitely plan their attack to go away from him. And then there were times where you just thought maybe he just needed to take over, even though the Eagles were doing everything they could to make sure he wasn't involved. When you're that good, you just need to make a play, and they unable to get the job done there. But surprise was definitely that we had a source tell us flat out, we saw Brynden Walker at OSU playing the same type of opponent. It's not like the game in Stillwater was so much better that you wanted to go there. So a little interesting, and then he puts out that tweet about how tough the recruiting process is, and it can be a lot tougher too. And I don't know if
when you keep flipping commitments,
and I don't know if he tried to make it a secret visit, and if Brian Odom and Ruffin McNeil didn't know about it, or if they knew and just weren't bothered that he was going to McNeese State game because he knew that environment wasn't going to scare him or what. But this sounds like something that as firm as he wants to be, he's not. And so this might be something that lingers just a little bit longer before he finally feels 100% comfortable. And it might have to take an official visit to both schools for him to really make up his mind.
Now, have you reached out to him to see if he will confirm that he took that visit or not?
I sent them a text. I haven't heard back yet, and that's par for the course during this time of year. A lot of kids will just say they're focused on their season, and they're not going to answer, and that's.
So in other words, you'll probably be going out to see Brynden Walker again sometime soon.
Oh yeah, and part of it is though he's the only kid in the metro area that is really on OU's radar. But yeah, when you add in this, now you don't just go to watch him play. Now you actually have to keep tabs with him and try to get a feel of what he's saying, and is it legit, or is he just saying what you think he wants you to hear?
I guess the big question, I mean, you just have to ask him one question, is are you still committed to Oklahoma? See what he says, right?
See what he says, see his mannerisms, his voice inflection. Does he pause? Does he sigh?
Mannerisms and voice inflection.
That's why you have to do it face to face. That's why I know
CSI SoonerScoop.
This is more of me and Josh. I hate DM interviews because you can't get a feel of what those kids are really saying.
No, that's why. Is that why you've been asking Carrie to buy a lie detector test? Strap him up.
How much more money could you give me for doing podcasts?
We need a heat lamp.
Hell yeah.
That sways back and forth.
And we need a urine sample, but that has nothing to do with recruiting.
All right. Don't really know where to go from there.
Brock. Go Brock.
So the video is coming. It's been a work in progress. Is it up now? Okay. The video is up now.
Yep.
It's on the board. We have a hobbled Brock Vandagriff.
You have to watch the video, and you have to watch it once, and then you watch it again with it in mind that he played on a broken fibula. That's insane.
Like when you watch it the first time, do you just think, oh, he's not very athletic.
He's slow.
It's just like, why is he hobbling? And then it's like, oh, he broke his leg. He's still playing.
Josh, what was that night like? You were there in Atlanta when it happened.
I've never seen a Greek tragedy, but that's kind of what it felt like. Like, I had been so excited to go. I'm just jinxed with OU quarterbacks. Like, we've talked forever about the Spencer Rattler and all the trouble I had going to see him. And then I get out to Vandagriff, and it's so perfect, man. Like, I get out there, and I'm there. I get out to the school at like 3 o'clock that afternoon before his, about 4 hours before his kickoff. And I'm hanging out with his dad and the coaching staff, and everybody's just being incredibly open and just talking to me about whatever. And, I'm meeting people that are support staff there at the school. And it's a really great setup and everything. And I send you guys a message in our little group DM right before the game. And I was like, guys, we may be able to do a sights and sounds, because I'm like videotaping in the locker room, like their pregame stuff. And as they're going over some of their calls, like, I've just been given license to everything. Now, for all the coaches out there that listen that are terrified, we would have run audio over the calls and stuff. We weren't going to out the whole game plan or anything. But, it was cool background to just be there and be able to shoot it a little bit. So they take the ball. It's perfect. Brock drives right down the field. He's 4 for 4 for like 65 yards in his first drive. Makes a beautiful touchdown throw. I thought when he let it go, he'd overthrown the receiver. And I actually heard him and the receiver talking about it at halftime, because, again, I got to sit in the locker room. And they're talking about it, and Brock's like, when I let it go, I thought I overthrew you just a little bit. And the receiver's like, no, man, it was perfect. And I'm sure Eddie put the highlight up. It's right on his fingertips. It's a great catch, great throw. Everything's perfect. Well, I scan back over to get some, B-roll basically of Brock, and he's not up. And I'm like, okay, he's still not up. He's still not up. He's not getting up. And finally he does, and he kind of limps off. And you're like, okay, he rolled his ankle. He'll move it around a little bit. Trainers will work on him. He'll be fine. Well, about mid-first quarter, you're like, no, he's not fine at all. Like, you can tell. He's already hobbling, and they've got him this huge tape job on his ankle. But I still thought he just rolled his ankle. Well, as the game goes on, he keeps having problems. He tries to you could tell it was hard for Brock, because his natural instinct when he would get pressured, and his offensive line is not particularly good, and the defensive line he was playing against probably had some Division II type players. So they were chasing him around, giving him some trouble. Well, his immediate thought is to run around and move away from the danger. Well, he can't. And so then it's like his brain is immediately into flight mode, and then he realizes he can't, and he's like, well, throw the ball. Like, he'll just get rid of it, and he's just not – you could tell his body and his brain were not working together. But the kid still was 32 of 41 for like 330 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, like, it wasn't like it was a bad night. He just – you could tell he wasn't anywhere near himself.
Yeah, other than the broken leg and the loss.
Yep.
Wasn't a bad night.
Yeah, and what made me feel worse is before the game, he comes out and we're talking a little bit, and I'm like, Brock, I hardly ever will stick a camera in a dude's face, but I came all the way out here, so win for me. Like, I won't stick a camera in your face if you lose, but win. And he's like, I got you. And I'm like, I mean, like, they beat that team twice last year. It's like a rivalry game. I wasn't really worried about them being a letdown. It was like a top 5 game in their class. And so you're thinking, okay, this is going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. Of course not. No, it had to go wrong. It had to go bad. Brock immediately, like, he wasn't on the field for more than 30 seconds after the handshake line, and they carted him off over back to the tent. I didn't have the heart to go back in the locker room for that one. So it wasn't good. And, his dad told me after the game, he goes, I think he might have broken it. And I was like, broken what? And he goes, I think he broke a bone. And I still was thinking ankle. So I went back thinking like, oh, God, he broke his ankle. And then I wake up to my 6 a.m. flight out of Atlanta. I wake up at about 4:15 at my hotel, and I get a message and I'd had a message from his dad, and it said something like he broke his fibula. So, it just, the fact that, again, like Eddie's right, go watch that video and realize he's doing it pretty much on one leg. And that's, I mean, whatever else you want to say.
He still throws some pretty good balls.
Yeah, it's a tough freak. I mean, he literally threw a touchdown on a broken friggin' leg. So that's not bad.
By the way, I want to take a quick moment, Eddie, to apologize for basically questioning whether commitment videos led to dumbasses or people that never played.
Transfer portals,
whatever. Because Josh is the ultimate jinx. I can't be talking down to commitment videos when Josh is the ultimate jinx.
Josh I'm like Sherman rolling through the South. If I go into the South, bad shit will follow. Like, it's either decommitments, injuries. If I go see a player, I'm going to see Edgerrin Cooper in a couple weeks, guys. He needs to just be prepared. Like,
that was
roll
me.
Himself.
Well, Eddie and I haven't been able to stomach a road trip since the Jacob Phillips stuff.
Well, we had Tavion Thomas when we were both there for that one.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's one of the weirdest games we've ever seen.
Who doesn't even play for Cincinnati.
Probably one of our all-time worst calls. Should have just gone and seen Brian Asamoah that night.
Yes. Although he probably wouldn't be here if we did that.
That's true.
And speaking of it, we talked earlier about some young guys. He looked good the other night. I think he's going to be a player.
No, he's got – it's weird because I think it was it Lincoln Riley asked about linebackers, or maybe it was Grinch, and he just named every player on the roster. Like,
that's a Grinch thing.
He was happy with everything that all those guys have been doing, basically. Well, not every guy. I'm sure there's some guys, not the walk-ons and stuff. I mean, Brian Meade was the only
Levi Draper got some real time.
Yeah, I mean, but he mentioned Levi Draper. Levi Draper's one of the first people he mentioned.
He only had like a series or two, and so I put that on Twitter, and that had like 200 likes. There's just something about that kid that just resonates, even if he never does anything.
It's kind of like White Bookie.
I like it.
Is that racist?
Well, yes, but
No,
I like
think there's
it.
something to be said.
Well, yes.
Because in-state people can relate to Levi. Like, he wanted to go to Oklahoma. He got to go to Oklahoma. Like, there's that could have been me, and it couldn't have. But, like, because there's always this assumption that, like, Levi's not talented. No, he's a lot better player than you ever were. But I think it's easy for people to put themselves in those shoes. Like, I know where Collinsville is. Like, people don't know where Bradenton, Florida is for Buki. Like, there's just it's an easier connection.
Yeah, and Collinsville's kind of, it's remote and a little bit, what is it, north of Tulsa, just a little bit on 169. So, it's like that part of the world doesn't get a whole lot of OU football players either.
Yeah, you got to be small when Owasso's looking down their nose at you. So,
okay, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. I guess we should mention, what the hell happened to Jinx last weekend?
57-7 at home. Bixby.
On the
Ouch.
on the back end of shutting out Mansfield,
Yeah, so weird.
I think Bixby's really, really good. Like really, really good.
Like,
I think they
could
compete
Bixby beat BA?
That's going to be your
I think-
Tulsa World story throughout the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could they be a 6A1
think-
champ,
I think
not
they're-
6A2?
I'm not saying they would. I'm saying it would be a good game.
What does Bixby have?
The Brennan Presley kid.
They
is
got
really
Presley
good.
brothers.
Okay.
And then their quarterback, I believe I saw last night that he has 12 touchdowns. That leads the country in high school football players.
football.
I mean, Brennan
corner
himself has
committed to-
8, so I would imagine, yeah.
They've got a corner committed to Oklahoma State. Their offensive line play is always as good as anybody in the state. I mean, they just consistently. They don't always have like a Bryce Bray kind of guy, but they always have guys that are 260 plus, and they may not be great athletes, but they do exactly what their assignment is. They're just well coached.
And then BA taking down Union. What's weird is Jinx and Union play this week.
It's the first time since 1980 both teams are coming off a loss.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
Did you ever see
I did
like
not know
the last time Jinx had lost like that bad? I mean, I was talking to Bill Haston today, and he said it had to be 30 years, maybe 35 years.
It feels like it's been that long since one of them wasn't ranked number 1 in this game.
And Union's actually 0-2 because they lost their Texas game, 47-44. So this is just all sorts of weird.
They drew the short straw in Mansfield. They got the one that
Well, and
would've given
Union
everybody trouble.
Union represented well against BA. It's just Broken Arrow just pulled away in the second. I mean, I think it was tied at halftime 0-0.
Yeah, Broken Arrow's just so big up front, man. They're going to lean on you, and if they can.
Yeah.
If you don't get some points in that first, you're going to wear down. They just, I mean, because like I said, Eddie and I have seen it. They've got 8, 9, 10 offensive linemen that would play for just about anybody in the state. I mean, they're big up front.
All right, fellas. Well, we're headed to UCLA. Looking forward to that one. Always great to be in the Rose Bowl, even though, like we talked about earlier, it's going to be a letdown compared to the last time we were there. There's just no getting around that one. But thanks to Eddie, to Bob, to Josh. Thank you to MidFirst Bank. Go check them out, midfirst.com/OU-offer. Get signed up for that OU credit card. Want to thank them for coming on board the pod as our new main sponsor. And thanks to SeatGeek as well. Also, don't forget the Eskridge Lexus post-game show will return, and we're going to do that and then head to the airport. So it's going to be an all-nighter Saturday night, but we're glad to do it for you guys so you can have one of the best post-game podcasts around. So make sure to sign up, subscribe if you want to get those episodes as early as you can, whether it's on iTunes, we're on Spotify now, Google Play, Stitcher, even SoundCloud. That's our host. So you want to get the app for SoundCloud, you can get stuff really fast that way too. So any last words, gentlemen, before we get out of here? Everybody's happy? Okay. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll be back next week with another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on SoonerScoop.com.